You've been lied to about what power looks like. You've been taught that the loudest person wins, that charisma is everything, that influence comes from speaking more, doing more, being more visible. But in the real world, the one behind closed doors, inside boardrooms, in elite rooms and quiet conversations, the opposite is true. Real power doesn't raise its voice. It doesn't fight to be seen. It doesn't explain itself. It moves in silence. It pulls rather than pushes. It influences without revealing its hand. This is invisible power, the kind that controls rooms without being the center of attention, the kind that manipulates outcomes while appearing uninvolved, the kind that, once mastered, allows you to dominate without ever looking dominant. Invisible power is not about tricks or performance. It's not about pretending to be something you're not. It's about becoming so internally aligned, so emotionally stable, so strategically precise that people feel your power before they can even describe it. Most people will never develop this. They'll spend their lives trying to impress, trying to convince, trying to prove. They'll shout louder, work harder, and still get overlooked. Not because they lack potential, but because they never learned how power actually works. This book is a manual for the ones who are ready to leave that behind, for the ones who are done begging to be seen, for the ones who would rather move in silence and still win. Each of the 21 chapters in this book is a law, not a suggestion, not a tip. A law grounded in psychology, strategy, and real-world dominance. Every law can be used to increase your control, deepen your presence, and sharpen your influence, without noise, aggression, or neediness. But be warned, once you see how this kind of power works, you can't unsee it. You'll notice how it's used around you, by bosses, leaders, partners, even enemies. And more importantly, you'll begin using it yourself. Let's begin. Subscribe to never miss a book like this one. Chapter 1. The Law of Presence. How to command without speaking. You are never invisible. You are always sending signals, even in silence. The room reacts before you speak. Imagine this. A person walks into a room. They say nothing. They're not flashy. They're not loud. But something about them changes the energy. Heads turn. Conversations pause. People sense it before they understand it. That's presence, and it's the foundation of all invisible power. Presence isn't about what you say. It's about what others feel the moment you arrive. It's your internal state, external composure, and unspoken energy, all working together to create an invisible pressure in the room. If you have presence, you never need to demand attention. You receive it effortlessly, because the room is responding to something deeper than words. What is presence? Presence is not confidence. Confidence can be faked. Presence can't. Presence is the energy of self-certainty. It's the quiet, grounded intensity of a person who needs nothing from anyone. Not approval, not attention, not permission. That energy, when unshakable, speaks louder than anything you could say. People feel it before they can name it. The human brain is wired to detect status, security, and dominance within seconds, not through logic, through instinct. Presence is a primal cue. It tells others, this person is in control. This person is not nervous. This person knows who they are. This person cannot be easily moved. When people feel that, they respond automatically. They defer. They adjust. They orient themselves around you. Why most people lack presence? Most people walk into rooms full of internal noise. They overthink. They overexplain. They scan for approval. They rush to speak. Their bodies are tense. Their faces unsure. Their energy restless. This creates instability. And instability makes others doubt your power. You cannot project presence if you are not at peace with yourself. If you need to prove something, chase validation, or fill every silence, your energy will always signal weakness. Presence only comes from one thing: inner stillness. How the law of presence works: here's the truth. You don't have to be the most successful person in the room to command it. You only have to be the most centered. When your energy is calm, your posture is strong, and your silence is intentional, people unconsciously calibrate to you. They begin to speak slower around you, choose their words more carefully, look to you for feedback, avoid disrespecting your space, feel unsettled when you don't respond. Because they want your reaction. Presence doesn't just affect how your reaction presence seen. It reshapes the power dynamic without a single word. The foundations of presence: 1. Stillness of body. The body speaks louder than language. Fidgeting, pacing, shifting, all of these signal nervous energy. Stillness, on the other hand, creates gravity. Move slowly. Stand firmly. Sit with control. When you move, move with intent. When you pause, pause with power. Your stillness will speak for you. 2. Neutrality of emotion. Emotions leak power. The person who reacts emotionally, whether with anxiety, frustration, or need, loses dominance. You must learn to hold tension without releasing it. Neutrality is strength. You are not cold. You are composed. The more unreadable you are, the more people fear what you're thinking. 3. Clarity of intention. People can feel when you don't know why you're in a room. Wandering energy weakens you, but if you carry yourself like you belong, with no hesitation, others will assume the same. Before entering any space, ask yourself, who am I in this room? Walk in with that answer anchored in your body. The rest will follow. How to build unshakable presence. Presence is a skill, not a gift. And like any skill, it can be trained. Here's how. Practice 1. The silent entrance. Every time you walk into a room, take 10 full seconds before speaking. Just stand, observe, breathe slowly. Let your presence register before your words enter. It will feel uncomfortable at first. That's good. You're learning to hold space. Practice 2. Eye contact without tension. When speaking, hold eye contact. Not aggressively, but steadily. Don't break it unless intentional. When listening, not occasionally, but keep your gaze relaxed and unbroken. Presence lives in the eyes. Train them to say, I see you. I hear you. But I am not moved by you. Practice 3. Voice discipline. Lower your voice slightly. Slow your pace. Eliminate filler words. Don't interrupt. Speak only when necessary. And when you do, pause before responding. A pause creates weight. The fewer your words, the more they will matter. Common mistakes that kill presence: trying too hard to be liked. Approval seeking weakens your energy. Over talking to avoid awkwardness. Silence is not your enemy. It is your tool apologizing for your existence. Powerful people don't apologizing for your existence. For taking up space, changing your energy to match others. The dominant frequency controls the room. Be it final word. Be the gravity, not the noise. Presence is gravity. It pulls people toward you without needing to chase them. When mastered, the law of presence makes others lower their voice when speaking to you. It makes them consider your reaction before acting. It makes them uncomfortable when you don't respond, and relieved when you do. This is the beginning of invisible power. Not through force, not through volume, but through internal mastery. You no longer ask to be noticed. You enter, you hold, and they adjust to you. That's presence. That's power. And that's just the beginning. Chapter 2. The law of perception. Control the lens. Control the power. Reality doesn't matter. What they believe is what they obey. Introduction. The illusion that rules everything. There is a game being played around you at all times. In meetings, interviews, social circles, negotiations, even relationships. It's not a game of truth. It's not a game of facts. It's a game of perception. And here's the rule. Perception is reality. In the real world, you don't get what's fair. You don't get what you deserve. You get what people think you deserve. If they see you as a leader, they follow. If they see you as valuable, they listen. If they see you as weak, they dominate. Your image, not your talent, not your work ethic, not even your results, is what determines your influence. This is why some rise fast with average skill, while others grind in silence and stay overlooked. The powerful don't leave perception to chance. They design it. They shape how they are seen so deliberately that even their silence becomes interpreted as wisdom. Their calm is seen as confidence. Their distance is seen as power. This is the law of perception. If you control how others see you, you control how they treat you. People don't see you. They see a filter. No one experiences you objectively. People carry their own fears, desires, projections, and insecurities into every interaction. You're not being evaluated for who you are. You're being evaluated through the lens of who they think you are. That lens is built instantly, in microseconds, through unconscious signals. The way you walk into a room, the way you look at them, your posture, your pace, your stillness, the tone and rhythm of your voice. How quickly you respond, or don't. How easily you're rattled, or not. These cues form a complete image, a story about you, long before logic gets involved. And once that image is formed, it becomes hard to change. The brain wants to confirm its first impression, not challenge. Which means this: if you win perception early, you win everything that follows. Perception is a form of leverage. Consider this. Two people enter a negotiation. One is technically more skilled. The other is perceived as higher status, more valuable, more confident. Who wins? The one with the better perception. Not because it's fair, not because it's right, but because people make decisions based on how they feel about you, not what's true about you. In that moment, power flows to the person who owns the narrative. This is how perception becomes leverage. It makes people second-guess their position. It makes them tread lightly around you. It makes them offer more than they intended, just to stay in your good graces. The three elements of perception power. To control perception, you must understand its components. Every impression others form about you is shaped by three core elements. 1. Framing. Framing is how you define yourself without directly stating it. Are you the strategist, the authority, the outsider with power, the unpredictable threat? You don't say it, you suggest it. You create a context in which people see you through that lens. Every word, gesture, and silence reinforces that frame. Once it's in place, people interpret your actions through it. 2. Contrast. You are judged not in isolation, but in comparison. The more you differ from your environment, the more powerful your perception becomes. If everyone is loud, you are calm. If everyone is emotional, you are cold. If everyone is rushing, you are still. This separation increases gravity. It creates psychological elevation, the impression that you operate from a different level. 3. Mystery. What people can't explain, they overestimate. Mystery increases status. When you speak less, move strategically, and leave parts of yourself undefined, people project power onto you. They can't measure you, so they assume more than is true. That assumption becomes belief. That belief becomes behavior. And their behavior gives you control. Practical tactics for perception control power is not just theory, it's practice. Here's how you begin mastering the law. 1. Create a personal archetype. Define how you want to be perceived, not vaguely, precisely. Examples: the calm operator, the cold strategist, the reserved architect, the underestimated genius, the quiet killer. Pick one. Align your behavior, posture, tone, and presence to that role. Consistently. When people can't categorize you, they forget you. When they can, and it aligns with power, they remember you forever. 2. Speak with intent, not volume. Talk less, but say things that shape how you're seen. Speak in framing phrases. This isn't something I normally share. I have a habit of spotting patterns others miss. I prefer to watch people first before I speak. These lines shape perception without bragging. They embed qualities like exclusivity, vision, and control. Let people fill in the rest. They'll always assume more than you suggest. 3. Control the first 30 seconds when entering a room or conversation. Walk slow. Breathe deeply. Say nothing for 3-5 seconds. Scan the environment with calm, neutral energy. Let others speak first. This communicates control. It says, I am not here to prove, I am here to be seen. What happens when you control perception? Everything changes. When others begin to see you differently, they ask for your input before making decisions. They pause after your sentences, waiting for more. They correct themselves mid-conversation, afraid to say the wrong thing. They mirror your energy. They seek your validation and fear your silence. All of this happens without force, without demands, just through controlled perception. That's why it's one of the most dangerous forms of power. No one sees it happening. They think they're making their own decisions. They don't realize they're acting inside the narrative you created. What kills powerful perception? A few common habits instantly destroy the image you've built. Over-explaining. If you have to justify it, you already lost ground. Seeking validation. Power doesn't ask for applause. Excessive sharing. Mystery always outweighs transparency. Inconsistency. Nothing ruins perception faster than contradiction. Guard your image like a fortress, because once trust in your presence erodes, your influence collapses with it. Final word. Become the lens they see through. Perception is not just how they see you. It's how they see everything else because of you. A well-framed presence distorts the environment. It redefines status. It makes you the reference point others use to measure themselves. You become the standard. Not because you demanded it, but because you shaped it. You are no longer simply in the room. You become the lens through which the room is seen. That's power, and they'll never even know how you took it. Next, the law of restraint in Chapter 3 will break down the most underestimated weapon of invisible power: silence. You'll learn why the person who says less ends up controlling more, and how speaking less creates tension, respect, and fear in any interaction. Chapter 3. The law of restraint. Speak less. Control more. Power is not in what you say. It's in what you choose not to say. Introduction. When silence becomes a weapon every day, in every room, there's one person who speaks just enough, and never more. They let others talk, interrupt, reveal, brag, justify. They listen. They observe. They wait. And then, without emotion or urgency, they speak. A sentence, a phrase, a gesture. Suddenly, the room shifts. That is the person with power. Not because they dominated the space, but because they withheld it until it mattered. This is restraint. In a world obsessed with expression, oversharing, and instant reactions, restraint is a kind of rebellion and a form of control. The ability to stay silent when others feel the need to talk. The discipline to withhold when others reveal too much. The presence to do nothing and let that unsettle the room. This is the law of restraint. Those who speak the least shape the most. Why restraint is so rare and so respected. Modern culture rewards noise. People talk to be liked. They over-explain to avoid being misunderstood. They rush to respond, defend, and correct. But all that effort does the opposite. It shows desperation. It shows a lack of control. Restraint, on the other hand, signals inner power. You don't need to speak to feel relevant. You don't need to win the moment. You don't need to be understood because you understand yourself. That kind of energy is rare. It's magnetic. And more importantly, it's respected. The psychology behind the power of restraint. Restraint plays on a deep psychological principle. People fear what they don't understand. When you talk constantly, they know what you think. When you over-explain, they know where you're vulnerable. When you react emotionally, they know how to shake you. But when you say less, stay calm, and let others fill the space, something strange happens. They begin projecting power onto you. He's not saying much. He must know something we don't. She's so calm. I wonder what she's planning. Why didn't he react? Is he unimpressed or just calculating? This mystery becomes gravity. This mystery becomes gravity. You become unreadable and therefore untouchable. That's the game. The less you reveal, the more others assume. And the more they assume, the more control you gain over their behavior. The mechanics of restraint is not passivity. It's not weakness. It's not about withdrawing or shrinking. It's about deliberate withholding. It's intentional silence. It's the choice to leave space and let your absence carry more weight than your words. Forms of restraint. Verbal restraint. Say less. Speak slowly. Pause often. Emotional restraint. Don't react. Observe. Let others expose themselves first. Behavioral restraint. Delay your moves. Don't rush to be first. Wait for others to show their cards. Energetic restraint. Stay composed. Don't overgesture or perform. Be still, calm, focused. All of these make you look unshakable. And when you look unshakable, people treat you differently. Tactical use. Where restraint wins, power won. In conflict, when others get loud, defensive, emotional, you stay still. Let them escalate. Let them show weakness. You don't flinch. You don't respond immediately. You simply say, I understand, noted, we'll revisit this later, and then you leave it. That silence becomes pressure. It makes them second-guess themselves. You win by not playing their emotional game. 2. In negotiation, people talk themselves into weakness. Let them. Ask one powerful question, then say nothing. Let silence stretch. They will rush to fill the gap, to justify, to drop their own price, to give you leverage without knowing it. You remain measured, and you leave with more than they plan to give. 3. In social power at a table of loud personalities, the quietest one often commands the most curiosity. Everyone is trying to be heard. You don't. You just sit back, observing, calculating. Then, when you do speak, the room pauses. Why? Because people are addicted to patterns. And when you break the rhythm with stillness, your words cut deeper than noise ever could. Discipline over expression. The true test of restraint is not silence. It's emotional discipline. When you're insulted and you say nothing. When you're doubted and you don't defend yourself. When you're challenged and you don't take the bait. That's real strength. That's internal power. Restraint says, I am too secure to react. And that security forces people to respect you. Because now they're chasing your energy, trying to get a rise, a reaction, a crack in your armor. And the more you withhold, the more powerful you appear. How to train restraint 1. Silence practice. Take time every day to sit in silence. Not passively, actively. Observe your own thoughts. Learn to feel discomfort without rushing to fill it. The more comfortable you are with silence internally, the easier it is to hold it externally. 2. Pause before speaking in conversation. Add a 2-second pause before you respond. Just 2 seconds. This creates perceived thoughtfulness, even when you already know what you want to say. It tells people, I choose my words carefully, and that's a signal of power. 3. Use fewer words. Aim to say in 10 words what others say in 30. Cut filler. Speak in crisp, sharp language. Deliver clear statements that leave no room for negotiation. Power doesn't ramble. It lands. What to avoid? Over-explaining weakens your position. Power doesn't seek understanding. It assumes it. Quick rebuttals. Show insecurity. Let others speak. Then answer calmly. Or not at all. Defensiveness instantly lowers your status. Let people be wrong about you. It costs you nothing. Verbal clutter. Filler words signal uncertainty. Remove them. Final word. Speak like you don't need to speak. When you practice restraint, your silence becomes louder than others' noise. You no longer chase attention. You generate gravity. Your presence says, I don't need to respond. I don't need to perform. I don't need to be understood. And that makes people lean in. They want to know what you're thinking. They want your approval, your insight, your reaction. But you don't give it easily. You let them wait. And when you do speak, they listen. That is power. Invisible. Unapologetic. Absolute. Next, the law of strategic invisibility in Chapter 4. We'll explore why real power doesn't always sit at the head of the table, and how the most dangerous influence is often the one that no one notices until it's too late. Chapter 4. The law of strategic invisibility. Influence from the shadows. Those who are seen can be targeted. Those who are unseen cannot be stopped. Introduction. The illusion of the spotlight. Everyone wants to be seen. They fight to lead. They clamor to speak first, be recognized, take the spotlight. They think visibility equals power. And in some cases, they're right, but only temporarily. The truth is far more dangerous. The spotlight doesn't create power. It exposes it. The person in the spotlight is not always the one in control. Often they are being used, pushed forward, admired on the surface, and quietly undermined beneath it. True power knows when to disappear. Strategic invisibility is not about weakness or withdrawal. It's about positioning, knowing where to be, when to vanish, and how to shape events without ever appearing to be the cause. This is the law of strategic invisibility. Influence is more effective when it operates undetected. The dangers of being too visible. When you are always seen, you are always judged. When you are always active, you are always exposed. When you are constantly asserting yourself, others begin to plot your decline, not out of reason, but out of instinct. Visibility invites attention. Attention invites resistance. And the higher your profile, the more likely it is that someone will envy your position, compete with your presence, question your decisions, undermine your authority, attack your reputation. Visibility makes you a target. But when you operate from the shadows, offering influence instead of noise, results instead of recognition, you bypass the defenses of others entirely. You remain untouchable because no one knows exactly what you're doing or how you're doing it. Power behind the curtain. The world is filled with public leaders who are puppets, and invisible ones who pull the strings. The advisor who shapes the leader's decisions, the silent investor who dictates the company's direction, the spouse or confidante who influences a ruler's moves, the quiet one in the room who never speaks, but is always consulted after the meeting ends. These are examples of strategic invisibility in motion. These individuals are not loud, not front-facing, not even the center of the plan, but nothing important moves without them. They exert quiet dominance, a form of control far more durable than public power, because it is less vulnerable to scrutiny and attack. They have nothing to prove and everything to gain. How invisibility creates influence. Influence depends on perception. When people see you trying to influence them, their defenses rise. But when they don't see your hand, they often act according to your design without resistance. Strategic invisibility works through 3 principles. 1. Detachment. You are not attached to the credit. You do not need recognition. Your ego doesn't pull you to the front. It keeps you aligned with your purpose. This frees you to move without resistance, because no one sees you coming. 2. Misdirection. You create space for others to feel in control, while you quietly shape the options available to them. You don't block them. You guide them invisibly. They think it's their idea. That's the ultimate influence. 3. Redirection of risk. The visible person carries the risk, the blame, the scrutiny, the judgment. The invisible one can shape outcomes without being held accountable for them. This separation allows you to act boldly while appearing harmless or absent. Where to use strategic invisibility in leadership. Lead from behind. Allow others to speak for your vision. Promote people who echo your values. Appear minimal while orchestrating everything. You don't need the title to control the direction. You need influence over the people who hold the title. In social circles, say less. Be the one who listens carefully, observes without reacting, and speaks only when the time is right. Let others underestimate you. Let them feel superior. You'll gather more intelligence, develop more leverage, and strike with precision when it matters. In negotiations, allow the other party to believe they are in control. Ask questions instead of offering opinions. Disappear from the conversation, then reappear with a decisive offer. On your terms. Leave no trail. Just results. Tools of strategic invisibility. To practice this law effectively, you must develop the following traits. 1. Emotional control. Invisibility fails if you can't regulate your reactions. If you reveal your desires, insecurities, or urgency, you become visible in all the wrong ways. Calm detachment is your armor. Silence is your sword. 2. Low signature movement. You don't announce your goals. You don't telegraph your plans. You operate beneath the surface, taking action without performance. Others wake up one day and realize they're operating in a world you quietly created. 3. Network without noise. Build connections, alliances, and information flows. But do it quietly. Don't brag about who you know. Don't flaunt your influence. Just move through people like water, without stirring the surface. The ego trap. When you want to be seen, the need to be seen is powerful and dangerous. It's tempting to want recognition, to want people to know you were behind the success, to want to claim your place in the spotlight. But the more you chase visibility, the more vulnerable you become. Because power isn't about being known. It's about being effective, with or without applause. The moment your ego demands attention, your position begins to weaken. Now you're exposed. Now you're defending your territory. Now others can see where and how to strike. Strategic invisibility protects you from that, when to appear, and how invisibility is not about vanishing forever. It's about controlling when and how you appear. There are moments when visibility is necessary to establish dominance, deliver a key message, or signal confidence. But those appearances must be rare, sharp, and unmissable. You emerge like lightning, clear, powerful, and unforgettable. Then you vanish again, leaving others to absorb the shock. The less you appear, the more powerful you seem when you do. Final word. Win without being seen. The most powerful influence is the kind that leaves no fingerprints. You don't need applause. You don't need acknowledgement. You don't need to be praised, liked, or remembered. You need results and leverage. You need to move people and plans from behind the curtain. You need to control outcomes so quietly that no one even knew you were in the room. That is the art. That is the strategy. That is the law of strategic invisibility. Let the others fight for the spotlight. Let them burn under it. You move in silence and build empires in the dark. Next, the law of emotional sovereignty. In Chapter 5, we explore one of the deepest forms of invisible power. Emotional control. Learn how mastering your inner world makes you immune to manipulation and turns you into the most stable force in any room. Chapter 5. The law of emotional sovereignty. Master yourself or be mastered. The most powerful person in any room is the one who feels the least urgency to react. Introduction. The war within power begins and ends with emotional control. It doesn't matter how intelligent you are. It doesn't matter how strategic your mind, how persuasive your words, or how strong your presence. If you can be emotionally rattled, you can be controlled. If your buttons are easy to find, they'll be pushed. If your moods are visible, they'll be used against you. The battlefield of invisible power is internal first. Before you can dominate a room, a deal, a stage, or a game, you must dominate yourself. This is emotional sovereignty. To be sovereign is to be free, to be ungoverned by chaos, to hold your emotional space like a fortress that no one can penetrate, invade, or manipulate. This is not about being cold or robotic. It's about being unshakable, composed under pressure, calm under attack, focused in chaos. This is the law of emotional sovereignty. If you control your emotions, no one else can control you. The hidden cost of reactivity. Most people leak power every time they open their mouth. Not because of what they say, but because of why they say it. They speak from insecurity, from ego, from impulse. They get angry when challenged, defensive when criticized, anxious when silence stretches too long. This emotional volatility signals weakness. It shows others exactly where the cracks are. Once someone knows how to upset you, they can steer you. Once they see what you fear, they can pressure you. Once they realize how badly you want approval, they can withhold it and make you chase it. If you can't master your emotions, you will always be mastered by someone who has mastered theirs. Emotional sovereignty, emotional suppression. Let's be clear. Emotional sovereignty is not the absence of feeling. It's the presence of control. You can feel deeply, but you respond selectively. You don't suppress your emotions. You command them. They serve you. They don't rule you. Think of a king in a castle. He still hears the chaos outside the gates, but he doesn't panic. He doesn't rush to the wall. He commands from the center, with clarity, not desperation. That's emotional sovereignty. You are the ruler, not the storm. The 4 signs of emotional sovereignty, if you are emotionally sovereign, it shows in 4 unmistakable ways. 1. You respond. You don't react. You don't snap back. You don't chase every insult. You don't argue to win approval. You listen. You process. You choose your move. When others expect fire, you bring ice. 2. You keep internal peace. Even in external chaos, you can be surrounded by urgency, panic, aggression, and still remain centered. You do not mirror energy. You set it. 3. You are immune to manipulation by praise or criticism. Compliments don't inflate you. Insults don't deflate you. You remain grounded, because your identity doesn't depend on external opinion. 4. You withstand isolation, rejection, and uncertainty without losing stability. Where most collapse, you stay intact. You can move forward without validation. That makes you rare and dangerous. The strategic advantage of emotional mastery in the game of influence. The emotionally reactive player always loses. Why? Because they reveal too much too fast, make decisions under stress, say things they later regret, project weakness. When pressure rises, become easy to predict and easier to manipulate. Emotionally sovereign individuals, by contrast, are unreadable, unshakable. They operate like a sealed vault, impossible to exploit because there's no handle to grab. This calm makes people nervous. They wonder what you're thinking. They tiptoe around you. They offer more than they should, just to feel in your good graces. Emotional control doesn't just protect you. It attracts power to you. How to develop emotional sovereignty? You're not born with this. You build it. Practice 1. Controlled exposure to tension. Put yourself in uncomfortable situations and stay calm inside them. Example. Let silence linger in conversations. Wait to respond to provocation. Sit still when someone pressures you for a reaction. Don't run. Don't rush. Just breathe. The discomfort teaches you to hold your frame while the world tries to crack it. Practice 2. Reframe the threat. When emotion rises, pause. Ask, is this a threat to my identity or just a challenge to my ego? Ego says, react. Power says, observe. Most things don't require a response. They require control. Practice 3. Study yourself under pressure. Where do you lose composure? Who triggers you? What kind of situations make you forget your power? Write these down. Study them. Your enemies already are. Why shouldn't you? The more you understand your emotional weak points, the harder they are to use against you. Mistakes that destroy emotional power. Avoid these traps. They erode your sovereignty instantly. Over-explaining shows insecurity and a need to be understood. Defensiveness signals guilt or weakness, even when untrue. Emotional outbursts destroy your reputation faster than any insult. Apologizing for your power. The moment you shrink to be liked, you lose authority. Don't perform emotional control. Become it. Let calm be your default. Let stillness be your language. Final word. Own the kingdom within. The world will test you. You will be criticized, misunderstood, underestimated, challenged. But none of that matters if you don't lose control. That's what makes emotional sovereignty so rare. So few are willing to govern themselves. So few can sit in stillness while others tremble. So few can say, "I don't need to react. I've already decided who I am." When you reach that level, people stop trying to shake you. They respect your calm. They begin to fear what you're capable of, not because of what they've seen, but because of what you've never had to show. This is invisible power at its highest level. Not loud, not dramatic, not reactive, just steady. And once you become sovereign over your emotional state, no one else can rule you again. Next, the law of distance in Chapter 6 will explore why being less available makes you more powerful, and how strategic distance forces respect, increases desire, and creates psychological elevation in every relationship. Chapter 6. The law of distance creates space, command respect. Power is rarely found in proximity. It is built in absence and felt in your withdrawal. Introduction. When you're too close, they forget who you are. Power doesn't fade all at once. It fades gradually through overexposure, familiarity, and constant availability. What begins as influence turns into expectation. What began as mystique becomes routine. And then, before you realize it, you're being taken for granted. Not because you've become less, but because you've stopped protecting your space. This is where most people lose their edge. They try to hold power by staying close. They try to maintain attention by increasing visibility. They try to deepen relationships by always being present. But in the realm of power, presence without boundaries leads to erosion. This is the law of distance. When you create space, others are forced to reevaluate your value. Why absence creates power. Human psychology is rooted in contrast. We measure value not by consistency, but by loss and recovery. You don't appreciate silence until the noise stops. You don't feel someone's weight until they're gone. You don't grasp someone's presence until they pull it away. That's the power of distance. It creates scarcity, and scarcity creates psychological elevation. It forces others to see you as distinct, not because you demand it, but because you remove what they've grown accustomed to. Constant presence breeds disrespect. The need to be close, liked, and ever-present is a subtle form of insecurity. When you're always accessible, people assume you're available, not valuable. They believe they understand you fully and lose curiosity. They stop listening deeply because you'll always say more later. They stop treating your time with weight because you never withhold it. You become ordinary, not through lack of power, but through lack of space. Familiarity is the great equalizer. It flattens distinction. It turns impact into background noise. Power must resist that. The strategic purpose of distance is not rejection. Distance is structure. It sends a message. I am not here to be consumed. I appear by choice, not obligation. My energy is not a default. It's a privilege. When you apply distance strategically, you create 3 effects. 1. Curiosity. Distance makes people wonder. Why are you quiet now? What are you working on? Have they moved on from me? This uncertainty leads to increased attention. 2. Respect. People begin to consider your time, your energy, and your approval more seriously. When you're less available, every moment of access becomes weighted. Your presence becomes a symbol, not just another interaction. 3. Control. You now dictate the rhythm of connection. You move on your own timing. You reappear when it serves your purpose, not theirs. This shifts the psychological balance in your favor. You become the prize, not the pursuer. How to apply the law of distance. Strategic distance is not coldness or avoidance. It is intentional withdrawal. Used to increase impact, protect your mystique, and reset dynamics. Practice 1. Withdraw before you're diminished. Don't wait for people to drift. Pull back while your influence is still strong. Leave the room before your presence feels ordinary. End the conversation before your words become background noise. Take space before they assume you'll never leave. This departure creates weight. Practice 2. Reduce your verbal availability. Don't answer immediately. Don't explain excessively. Don't always be the first to speak. Let others sit in silence. Let them experience the distance between question and answer, presence and disappearance. That space becomes tension. That tension creates influence. Practice 3. Protect your physical and energetic territory. Be selective with your presence. Don't go to every event. Don't join every conversation. Don't sit at every table. Your body carries energy. When you place it somewhere, you're signaling that this space is worthy of your time. Overplacing it weakens that message. Make your presence an event. In relationships, less more respect in personal and professional relationships alike. Over-proximity leads to erosion. You're always calling, always texting, always checking in. You're teaching the other person that you need them more than they need you. This creates imbalance. It invites control. But when you step back, not in anger, but in silence, the dynamic recalibrates. Now they reach out. Now they reflect. Now they wonder, did I lose something valuable? And if they don't, that tells you everything. In social circles, quiet withdrawals speak loudest. Sometimes the most powerful move is to quietly disappear from environments that no longer elevate you. No explanation. No emotional exit. Just distance. People will notice. They'll ask about you. They'll remember you not as the one who stayed too long, but as the one who left before you had to. That creates myth. Myth creates power. The discipline of space distance isn't easy. It requires patience, control, confidence. You have to resist the urge to clarify, to chase, to over-nurture. You must be willing to feel misunderstood for a while in exchange for being respected long-term. The undisciplined fill silence. The powerful create it. Let them wonder where you are. Let them feel the shift when you withdraw. Let your absence do what your presence never could. Final word. Step back to rise. In a world of noise. Power is often gained not by adding more, but by removing yourself. Let others fight for visibility. Let them drown in performance. Let them exhaust themselves trying to be everywhere at once. You move like a tide, in and out, quiet, measured, strategic. When you're there, they feel your energy. When you're gone, they feel your absence. And when you return, it's never forgotten. That is distance. That is discipline. That is invisible power. Chapter 7. The Law of Unreadability. Stay mysterious. Stay in control. Once they can't read you, they can't reach you. Introduction. Predictability is a liability. Most people are easy to read. You can see what they want. You can see when they're anxious. You can tell when they're bluffing, when they're flattered, when they're afraid. They reveal too much. They speak too fast. Their faces are open windows, and their decisions follow predictable patterns. This makes them easy to influence and easy to defeat. Power requires the opposite. To hold real, durable control, you must remain unreadable, not cold, not fake, but opaque. When people can't read you, they hesitate, they guess. They retreat. And most importantly, they lose confidence in their ability to control or anticipate your moves. This is the law of unreadability. Those who reveal the least control the most. Why people reveal themselves too quickly? Most people are emotionally impulsive. They speak their thoughts as they feel them. They show their intentions through tone, eyes, gestures, and body posture. They do this because they seek comfort, and comfort comes from being understood. But the moment you make yourself fully understood, you surrender power. You surrender tension. You surrender leverage. Predictability makes you manageable, and no one respects what they can manage. Unreadability, however, makes you dangerous. The power of being psychologically elusive. Think of the most intimidating person you've ever met. Chances are, it wasn't the loudest person in the room. It wasn't the one who shared the most. smiled the widest, or talked the longest. It was the one you couldn't figure out. Their eyes didn't betray emotion. Their voice was controlled. Their words were precise, measured. Their silences lingered too long to be casual. You walked away unsure, not of what they said, but of what they meant. And that uncertainty made you respect them, or fear them, or both. That's the core of unreadability. It forces people to imagine more power than you actually display. The mechanics of unreadability to become unreadable. You must master 3 things. 1. Emotional masking. Don't let your inner state leak through your outer behavior. Even if you're angry, anxious, offended, or amused, remain still. Calm, centered, powerful people don't flinch. They may feel, but they never leak. Train your face, voice, and body to project one thing: composed neutrality. 2. Strategic silence. Don't fill every moment with words. Don't explain every move you make. Don't respond instantly to every question. The more you withhold, the more others wonder. Let people sit in uncertainty. Let them feel the space between what they know and what they want to know. That space is where power grows. 3. Unpredictable patterns break your rhythms. If you usually respond quickly, delay. If you often share stories, say little. If you're expected to react emotionally, go cold. Unpredictability forces people to question their assumptions. That hesitation becomes your advantage. When to be unreadable, unreadability isn't about being mysterious for mystery's sake. It's about protecting your leverage and maintaining your psychological edge. Use it when you're negotiating terms or setting boundaries, you're unsure of your opponent's intentions, you're entering environments filled with competition or hierarchy, you suspect someone is testing your emotional responses. You've gained attention and want to convert it into respect. In these moments, visibility becomes vulnerability. Let your silence speak. Let your neutrality unsettle. Tactical applications in conversation. Speak slower than others expect. Use fewer words than necessary. Don't answer every question directly. Pivot or stay silent. Let people work for your clarity. In social settings, avoid always being the center. Let others talk, joke, vent, reveal. Observe, without inserting your opinion too quickly. Offer reactions that are subdued, thoughtful, or neutral. This creates psychological distance and turns you into a subject of intrigue rather than familiarity. In leadership or authority, don't reveal your full plan up front. Keep certain thoughts or intentions off the record. Let others speculate about what you're thinking, but confirm nothing. This makes your approval more valuable, your decisions more respected, and your presence more commanding. The psychological impact on others' unreadability is a mirror. When others can't read you, they begin to project onto you their hopes, their fears, their expectations, their doubts. This projection gives you power. It puts the burden of interpretation on them. Now they're chasing understanding. They're adjusting to you, not the other way around. You control the frame not by asserting it, but by making them guess where the frame even is. The dangers of being too transparent. Transparency is often praised as authenticity, and in relationships, it has value. But in power dynamics, transparency is a gamble. It gives people the roadmap to your inner world. Once they know how you think, react, and feel, they can predict your moves, preempt your decisions, exploit your weaknesses, or simply stop respecting your mystery. Don't give them that map. Let them wonder. Let them adjust to a version of you they can't fully define. Final word. Become a riddle they never solve. Unreadability isn't about deception. It's about restraint. It's the discipline to let people feel just enough of you to stay intrigued, but never enough to feel they've figured you out. Mystery is magnetic. Stillness is threatening. Ambiguity is powerful. The more people think they know you, the less they respect your depth. The less they know, the more they fear your depth. That's invisible power. And when you master this law, you no longer need to fight for space. You'll be treated with caution, not because of what you said, but because of what you didn't. Chapter 8. The Law of Framing. control the lens, control the game. Power doesn't lie in the facts. It lies in how the facts are framed. Introduction. The frame is stronger than the fact people believe they're logical, that they make decisions based on facts, data, and truth. But in reality, people don't respond to facts. They respond to frames. The frame is the lens through which they interpret the fact. Change the frame, and you change the meaning. Change the meaning, and you change the decision. Change the decision, and you've just shifted the outcome, without altering a single fact. The truth hasn't changed. The context has. And that context is everything. This is the law of framing. If you control how others interpret reality, you never need to fight it. Why framing is the invisible lever of power? Framing is invisible because it operates before people even realize a choice is being made. The frame decides what questions are worth asking, which explanations are acceptable, who holds the moral high ground, what is considered urgent, fair, normal, or extreme. The frame creates the psychological playing field. Everyone inside it thinks they're acting freely, but they're actually playing inside the boundaries you set. This is what separates true power from performance. You don't argue facts. You set the context in which those facts are judged. The danger of letting others define the frame: most people are reactive. They walk into conversations, relationships, meetings, or conflicts without realizing that a frame has already been set for them. By the time they start talking, they're already inside someone else's arena. They're explaining themselves. They're defending their decisions. They're proving their worth on someone else's terms. This is how you lose power. Not in what you say, but in what you're responding to. If you allow others to define the problem, define the question, or define the standard, you've already surrendered control. The person who frames first wins in every interaction. Someone sets the tone. Someone defines the rules. Someone establishes what is normal, what is urgent, what is true. That person usually wins. Why? Because the frame influences every other thought that follows. For example, if you frame a delay as a strategy, it's seen as patience. If you frame it as indecision, it's seen as weakness. Same action, different frame, entirely different perception. This applies in leadership, negotiation, relationships, marketing, and politics. If you speak last but frame first, you win. If you speak first but frame poorly, you lose. How to establish a powerful frame? Framing is subtle. It's rarely loud. It often comes in first impressions, word choices, and quiet positioning. Here's how to create frames that hold power. 1. Set the standard before others can. Instead of waiting to be judged by someone else's standard, set your own. Example: rather than being labeled too intense, say, I operate with clarity. I don't do halfway. Now, anyone who sees you as intense is actually validating your standard, not rejecting it. 2. Use language that assumes authority. The words you choose define the boundaries of the frame. Use terms like clearly, I say, we both know, or the only real question is. Avoid defensive or uncertain language like I think, maybe, I hope, or I just feel like. Language either expands your frame or shrinks it. 3. Reframe attacks as validation. If someone criticizes you, don't defend, redefine. Example: you're being arrogant. No, I'm just not shrinking to make others comfortable. That turns an attack into a compliment. It flips the power. Tactical examples of framing in negotiation. Don't let them define the deal as a favor. Frame it as a mutual benefit. Or better yet, as something they need from you more than you need from them. Control the urgency. Control the leverage. In conflict, avoid defending your behavior directly. Instead, frame the situation. This isn't about blame. This is about fixing what doesn't work. Now you've elevated the conversation and repositioned yourself as the one who is solution-oriented, not guilty. In leadership, frame your decisions as inevitable outcomes of larger principles. This isn't about preference. It's about integrity. We don't reward inconsistency. Now, disagreement looks like a disagreement with the principle, not with you. Reframing the narrative others try to set there will be times when others try to impose their frame onto you, especially when they feel threatened. They'll paint you as too aggressive, too quiet, too demanding, too withdrawn, too confident, too unpredictable in these moments. Your job is not to argue the label. Your job is to redefine the meaning of that label inside your frame. Let their accusation become the evidence of your elevation. I'm not distant. I'm selective. I'm not controlling. I'm responsible. I'm not hard to understand. I'm hard to manipulate. Frame the room before you speak, whether you're entering a room, a meeting, a conversation, or a stage. Set the psychological context before you deliver your message. You can do this by how you carry yourself, the first words you say, the tone you use, what you don't respond to, what you elevate, ignore, or pause on. People don't just hear your words. They respond to the conditions you create before you speak them. Set those conditions with intention, and the rest becomes easier. Final word. Win the frame. Win the game. You don't have to control the conversation to control the outcome. You only have to control the lens through which that conversation is seen. This is the secret of the frame. You shape people's expectations before they even realize they've made a judgment. You move quietly, not by shouting louder, but by speaking into a context that you defined. And when you do this well, people will defend your position because it feels like their own conclusion. That's real power. Silent, invisible, absolute. Chapter 9. The Law of Imbalance. Give less, control more. The person who gives less always has more control. Introduction. The lie of equality and power. We've been taught to believe that balance is good, that fairness keeps relationships healthy, that reciprocity is the foundation of respect. But in the real world, especially in the world of power, balance is a myth. No relationship is truly equal. No negotiation ever happens on perfectly level ground, and no structure of control is shared evenly. The people who rise to the top do so because they understand this. Whoever gives less needs less. Whoever needs less controls more. Power moves along the lines of imbalance, of investment, desire, attention, and emotional energy. The one who needs the outcome least always sets the terms. This is the law of imbalance. The side that contributes less commands more. The psychological truth behind imbalance in every relationship, personal, professional, or political, one side usually wants something more than the other. One side wants more approval, needs more closure, puts in more time, feels more urgency, chases more validation, and the side that wants less. They hold the leverage. They're not careless, they're strategic. Their distance creates tension. Their lack of dependence creates dominance. Their minimal effort forces the other side to compensate. This imbalance creates gravity. It pulls the overinvested side inward, while the underinvested side sets the tempo. Why people default to overgiving? Most people give too much, too soon. Why? Because they want to be liked, fear being forgotten, think effort proves value, confuse giving with bonding, believe generosity earns loyalty, but overgiving often backfires. It doesn't earn respect, it cheapens it. If you give freely to someone who hasn't earned it, they start to assume it's easy to get more. They stop valuing what you offer, and eventually they start taking it for granted, or worse, resenting it. When there is no imbalance, there is no tension. And when there's no tension, there's no power. Imbalance is not exploitation. It's leverage, to be clear. This law is not about exploitation or emotional manipulation. It's about understanding power dynamics and positioning yourself in such a way that you are never the one at a disadvantage. Imbalance becomes power. When you give selectively, you invest only where it's reciprocated, you hold your emotional center. You do not chase, you offer value without becoming dependent on how it's received. When you give less, every act of effort becomes more powerful. Scarcity to value. Selectivity to respect. How to apply the law of imbalance. 1. Give only after it's earned. Don't offer value, time, energy, resources, or affection. to people who haven't demonstrated commitment or respect. People value what they struggle to access. The more easily they get it, the less it means. Make them climb the hill before you offer the view. 2. Stay less emotionally committed than the other party. This doesn't mean you don't care. It means you never let your emotional investment outpace theirs. If you're the one always following up, always explaining, always checking in, you've lost your center. Let them wonder where you stand. Let them feel the imbalance. Let them realize, I need this more than they do. That's when control shifts. 3. Hold the power to walk away. This is the ultimate imbalance. If you can leave, and they can't, you win. Don't just say it, live it. Structure your life so that no single deal, person, or opportunity can trap you in desperation. Indifference is power. The ability to walk is more powerful than anything you say when you stay. In business and negotiation, the best negotiators don't offer the most. They reveal the least. They act as if they're just as willing to walk away as they are to close the deal. This unsettles the other side. It creates imbalance. It forces movement. A buyer who needs the sale will pay more. A seller who can walk away will get better terms. The side that appears more relaxed controls the pace. The side that offers less feels more powerful, and usually is. In relationships, imbalance is the unspoken force behind desire. The one who is chaste gains status. The one who is stoic creates intrigue. The one who withdraws creates tension. The one who gives less often receives more. This doesn't mean you play games. It means you stay grounded. You don't give your emotional world away cheaply. You don't beg for closeness. You don't trade your identity for approval. Let others come to you. Let your stillness force their pursuit. Emotional imbalance is the most dangerous kind if someone knows you need them more than they need you. Emotionally, mentally, or spiritually, they can manipulate you at will. They will make you prove your worth, withhold affection to increase their leverage, push boundaries, to test how far they can go, use guilt, silence, or confusion to maintain dominance. But if you reclaim emotional balance, or better yet, tip it in your favor, the dynamic resets. They adjust. They recalibrate. And you gain ground, not through confrontation, but through calm detachment. Final word. Give the least. Gain the most. The world will tell you to give endlessly. Your time, energy, attention, loyalty, and heart. But the world often lies. Because the more you give without discernment, the more you become an emotional commodity, available, dependable, and forgettable. But when you practice restraint, when you give slowly, deliberately, and sparingly, when your energy feels rare, you stop being common. You start being felt. Power, after all, is not about volume. It's about scarcity, and the person who gives less will always have more control. Chapter 10. The Law of Intentional Delay. Move slowly to command the pace. He who moves first rarely wins. He who waits, watches, and strikes later controls everything. Introduction. In a world of urgency, stillness is power. We live in a culture of speed. Everyone wants answers now. Everyone wants replies immediately. Everyone wants results yesterday. This constant acceleration makes people predictable, sloppy, and emotionally impulsive. They rush into decisions. They react to every message. They panic in silence. They assume speed equals power, when in fact, it often signals desperation. The most powerful people you'll ever meet are rarely in a hurry. They move slowly. They pause deliberately. They delay responses. They create time rather than collapse into urgency. This is the law of intentional delay. The slower you move, the more others rush to adjust to you. Why speed is often a weakness, urgency is useful when there's a fire. But in most power dynamics, urgency is a trap. When you act fast, you telegraph your intentions. You reveal your anxiety. You give away your emotional state. You show others that their timeline controls you. That loss of pacing equals loss of control. But when you pause, when you choose to delay, Others begin to anticipate your moves instead of challenging them. They overthink, they project, they chase your rhythm instead of setting their own. That's power. Invisible, silent, unspoken, and felt. The psychology of waiting people are terrified of waiting. Not because of the wait itself, but because of what it means. When you delay, they fear you've lost interest. They question if they did something wrong. They wonder if you're calculating something deeper. They assume you have more options, more leverage, and that assumption shifts the psychological balance of power. They lean in. They fill the silence. They expose themselves, trying to regain control. Meanwhile, you remain still, watching, calculating, letting the world unravel itself before you take action. How to use intentional delay as a strategy. 1. Delay your response in communication, whether it's an email, a message, a question, or a confrontation. Never feel compelled to respond immediately. Silence is tension. Tension is leverage. Your pause does more than words ever could. It forces others to wonder. It increases the value of your eventual response. It positions you as the one who controls the pace. Those who cannot sit in the gap always surrender the high ground. 2. Take time before decisions. People want answers now. That's how they test your strength. So what's your decision? Are you in or out? What are you going to do? Don't play their game. Set your own rhythm. Tell them, I'll get back to you when it makes sense for me. I don't rush decisions that affect my direction. I move with clarity, not pressure. Now the frame is yours. The timeline is yours. The power is yours. 3. Resist the need to fix or react immediately in conflict. Most people respond emotionally. They interrupt, explain, defend, or retaliate. But power lies in pausing. Hold the silence. Let others unravel. Let them say more than they intended. Your stillness will unsettle them, because most expect friction. When they don't get it, they feel off balance. And that imbalance puts them on your terms. The difference between delay and indecision. To delay intentionally is not the same as being hesitant. Hesitation is fear. Delay is control. Hesitation signals insecurity. Delay signals strategy. You are not avoiding action. You are positioning yourself. You are buying time. And more importantly, you are watching how others behave when they're not in control. That observation is priceless. People reveal their true nature in uncertainty. Let them show you who they are while you remain still. In relationships, the power of withholding speed, romantic, social, professional, doesn't matter. The faster you give people access, approval, or affection, the faster they start taking you for granted. Give slowly. Don't reply instantly to every message. Don't say yes to every request. Don't reveal your heart in a single conversation. This isn't cruelty, it's structure. It teaches people. My attention is earned, not assumed. That delay increases emotional value. It elevates your energy, and it keeps people in pursuit rather than in comfort. In leadership, the leader who waits commands more. The best leaders don't jump into chaos. They pause. They read the room. They watch how others behave under pressure, and only then do they intervene. This gives their words more gravity. When they finally speak, the room listens. Because silence, when broken at the right moment, carries more force than constant noise. Great leaders delay, not out of confusion, but out of composure. And in doing so, they multiply their impact. Common mistakes that break the law of delay: responding instantly to prove you care, looks desperate. Making fast decisions to avoid discomfort feels reactive. Explaining yourself too early eliminates mystery and leverage. Matching someone else's urgency surrenders control of the frame. Instead, build your tolerance for silence. Get comfortable with not responding. Let others sit in the discomfort you used to run from. Because in that discomfort, power builds. Final word. The calm that breaks the world's speed is the default setting of the powerless. They rush because they fear being forgotten. They explain because they fear being misunderstood. They respond instantly because they fear missing the chance to be liked. But when you delay with purpose, when you slow your breath, when you wait in attention, when you move only when it serves you, not them, the game bends toward you. Because the person who controls time controls tension. And the person who controls tension controls perception. And perception, as we've already learned, is everything. So don't just move slower, move like you own the clock. Chapter 11. The Law of Strategic Withdrawal. Step back to reclaim power. When presence is no longer respected, absence becomes a weapon. Introduction. Sometimes the strongest move is to leave in a world obsessed with persistence. Stepping away is often seen as weakness. People will tell you, never quit, push through, stick around and fight for your place. But this is only half the truth. Because in the world of power, staying too long can cost more than leaving at the right time. Clinging to situations that no longer serve you, out of pride, fear, or ego, slowly erodes your value. Strategic withdrawal is not about giving up. It's about reclaiming control. It's about removing yourself from situations that compromise your leverage, so you can re-enter later with elevated power, or never need to return at all. This is the law of strategic withdrawal. Your absence, when delivered at the right time, can speak louder than your presence ever could. Why withdrawal is so effective: most people overstay. They stay in jobs where they're undervalued, relationships where they're underappreciated, friendships that drain their energy, conversations that have turned manipulative, environments that no longer reflect their identity. They stay out of fear of being forgotten, judged, or misunderstood. But in staying, they unknowingly hand over control. Withdrawal disrupts that pattern. It removes your energy from places that have become entitled to it. It forces people to reevaluate your value through the sudden void you leave behind. And it resets the balance of power by forcing the world to notice your absence. The psychological impact of disappearance. There is something deeply unsettling about someone who suddenly withdraws, calmly, silently, and without explanation. Why? Because it breaks the rhythm. It interrupts the script. It replaces familiarity with mystery. And in that silence, the imagination of others starts to work against them. Did I go too far? Why did they leave now? What are they thinking? Have I lost access to something valuable? This mental tension is more powerful than confrontation. While you're silent, they're spiraling. While you're gone, they're talking. While you're absent, your presence multiplies in their mind. That is strategic withdrawal. When to withdraw, withdrawal becomes powerful when used deliberately, not emotionally, not impulsively, not dramatically. Use it when your value is no longer being recognized, your efforts are being exploited, you're being pulled into unnecessary conflict, the frame of the situation has shifted against you. You need to reset the dynamic. Without explanation, this is not escape. It is reclamation. You're not avoiding the battle. You're choosing the battlefield. Types of withdrawal. 1. Physical withdrawal. You leave the room. You leave the meeting. You stop showing up in environments that no longer reflect your power. This forces people to feel your absence as a material loss. 2. Emotional withdrawal. You remove your emotional investment. You stop over-explaining. You stop over-explaining. You stop over-apologizing. You stop proving your worth. People start to notice not that you're gone, but that your energy is gone. 3. Social withdrawal. You reduce contact. You delay responses. You pull back from digital access, from messages, social media, or constant availability. This creates tension and mystery. You're not gone. You're distant. And that distance becomes magnetic. How to withdraw strategically. Step 1. Stay silent. Don't announce your exit. Don't explain your reasoning. Don't beg to be understood. Silence is more powerful than justification. The moment you explain, you shrink. The moment you defend, you lower your power. Let your absence speak for itself. Step 2. Be consistent once you withdraw. Don't wobble. If you return too early, too apologetically, or too softly, the power you built collapses. Stay gone long enough for the absence to take root. Let them feel what life is like without you in it. Step 3. Watch what they do without you. Withdrawal reveals truth. When you're no longer present to serve, entertain, or pursue, you see how people behave when they no longer think they need to impress you. If they panic, chase, or change, you've just revealed your value. If they stay silent, move on, or diminish you, you've revealed their true alignment. Either way, you win. Clarity is power. What withdrawal is not, it is not ghosting. Ghosting is avoidance born from fear. Strategic withdrawal is distance born from power. It is not manipulation. You are not trying to punish or guilt others. You are restoring your position. It is not giving up. You are not quitting the game. You are choosing when and where to play it. Power is not always in the strike. Sometimes it's in the absence of reaction. In relationships, leaving without slamming the door. In toxic or imbalanced relationships, people often use your presence as a given. They treat your energy as an obligation. You don't need to argue. You don't need to perform. You simply need to step away. Not to cause pain, but to restore truth. If they miss you, they'll recalibrate. If they blame you, they were never on your side. And if they improve only after your absence, you'll know the presence you once gave was too generous. In leadership, disengage to reclaim authority. Good leaders know when to speak. Great leaders know when to vanish. Sometimes the most powerful move is to step back and let the team, the opponent, or the system reveal its flaws without your intervention. This distance creates accountability. It teaches responsibility. It teaches responsibility, and it tells the room, you don't get access to my leadership until you're ready to receive it. That's not ego. That's structure. Final word: step away to rise above. Presence is valuable, but only when it's earned. If you find yourself over-explaining, over-giving, or over-fighting to be seen, it's time to stop, not softly, not dramatically, but silently with clarity. Withdraw, not to hide, but to reframe, not to quit, but to reposition. Not to quit, but to reposition, and not to hurt, but to remind. I was here, you didn't see it. Now you will, because power, when removed suddenly, creates a vacuum. And in that vacuum, your value finally becomes visible. Let them fill the silence with reflection. Let them sit with the absence. And if you return, let it be on your terms, not theirs. Chapter 12. The Law of Polarization. Divide to multiply your power. The moment you try to please everyone, you belong to no one. Introduction. Approval is a drug, and most people are addicted. We're trained from an early age to smooth edges, soften opinions, and avoid offending anyone. We're told, be agreeable, be nice, keep the peace, stay in the middle, don't rock the boat. But here's the uncomfortable truth: nothing powerful is loved by everyone. Not ideas, not leaders, not revolutions, not change. Trying to be universally liked will turn you into something dull, forgettable, and replaceable. True power demands sharpness, and sharpness means some will love you, and some will hate you. That's not a flaw. That's the signal that you've become real. This is the law of polarization. To attract deep loyalty, you must be willing to provoke deep resistance. Why most people fear polarization? The average person avoids conflict not out of principle, but out of insecurity. They want to be included, fear being judged, dread social friction, associate disapproval with danger. But in trying to be accepted by all, they dilute everything. Their words become vague. Their actions become safe. Their presence becomes invisible. In the process, they give up the only thing that ever made them powerful: their difference. Powerful people don't fear being disliked. They fear being forgettable. The psychology behind polarization: human beings are tribal creatures. We want to belong, but we want to belong to something distinct. We follow what is clear, not what is decisive, not what is diplomatic. We follow what is real, not what is safe. When you take a stand in your values, tone, actions, or expectations, you become a lightning rod. Some people will step away. Good. Let them. Because the people who stay, they aren't casual. They're committed. They don't just agree with you. They belong to your frame, and that loyalty can't be bought through neutrality. The dangers of trying to be universally liked: one, you become bland. People can't connect deeply to what they don't understand. If your message tries to include everyone, it reaches no one with real force. 2, you become easily manipulated. When your decisions are based on avoiding conflict, you hand over control to the loudest critic in the room. 3, you attract people who don't value you. The more you bend, the more people test how far you'll go. Approval seeking attracts users, not allies. 4, you build nothing that lasts. Movements, ideas, and identities only survive if they repel as clearly as they attract. If no one's against you, you're probably not standing for anything. How to polarize with purpose: polarization doesn't mean being offensive for sport. It means being unapologetically clear about what you represent and letting the chips fall. 1, define your edges. Don't blur them. Don't round them off. Don't mute them to be more palatable. What do you tolerate? What do you reject? What's non-negotiable in your world? State it. Live it. Enforce it. Let people self-select. Those who fit will follow harder. Those who don't will drift away and make room for better alignment. 2, stop explaining yourself every time you over-justify your beliefs or standards. You weaken them. Make your position clear. Let people disagree. Don't beg to be understood. Don't beg to be understood. You're not here to be explained. You're here to be experienced. 3, accept the cost. There's no such thing as consequence-free clarity. Some people will misinterpret you. Some will slander you. Some will whisper your name in rooms you're not invited into. Let them. Because with every enemy you make through truth, you deepen the bond with the allies who matter. Tactical polarization in action in business and branding. Great brands stand for something, which means they stand against something. Don't try to serve everyone. Serve your people with focus and fire. Be willing to alienate the wrong audience to captivate the right one. Neutrality: pitch on invisibility. Precision: teach magnetism. In leadership, if your team always agrees with you, you're not leading, you're performing. Make decisions that serve the mission, not the mood. Take positions that create clarity, even if they create division. Leaders are not there to be liked, they are there to be respected. In relationships, don't play small to avoid conflict. Don't bite your tongue to avoid discomfort. Don't pretend to be more agreeable than you are. If someone can't handle your truth, they were never built for your future. What happens when you polarize? You lose the fake. You lose the shallow. You lose the lukewarm. And what you gain? Loyalty, clarity, confidence, alignment, a following built on truth. Not convenience. You don't need everyone. You need a few who believe deeply, and they can only believe if you're brave enough to be seen as you are. Final word: be the fire, not the smoke. Trying to be everything to everyone makes you nothing to anyone. The people who rise, the ones who leave a mark, are never the ones who sought approval from the entire room. They're the ones who split the room in half. Let some people disagree. Let others walk away. Let your clarity cost you comfort, because the minute you stop begging for belonging, you start commanding it. And that is invisible power. Chapter 13. The law of directed chaos. Master the storm to rule the calm. Chaos is a tool. Those who wield it with purpose shape reality itself. Introduction. Why chaos is the hidden currency of power. Most people fear chaos. They seek control through order, predictability, and routine. But power is rarely found in rigidity. True power flows through flexibility. through the ability to thrive amidst unpredictability. Chaos is not the enemy. It is the raw material of influence. The secret is not to avoid chaos, but to direct it, to become the eye of the storm, not the storm itself. This is the law of directed chaos. When others cling to order, you wield chaos as your weapon and your shield. Understanding chaos as energy, not disordered chaos, is often mistaken for pure disorder, a random scattering of events. But chaos is more nuanced. It is energy in flux, a shifting landscape full of potential. When you direct that energy with intention, you create openings others can't see. Chaos disrupts patterns. Chaos breaks predictability. Chaos forces others to react instead of act. Those who fear chaos seek refuge in routine. Those who master it bend the routine to their will. The power of controlled disruption means introducing unpredictability in ways that create advantage. This might look like changing your strategy mid-negotiation, breaking communication patterns to unsettle opponents, shifting moods or tones, unexpectedly taking unconventional risks that others won't anticipate. Such moves shake the foundations beneath your rivals. They leave them confused, off balance, and scrambling. Meanwhile, you remain centered, the calm inside the storm. When to use directed chaos. Chaos is not a default mode. It is a tool to deploy carefully, strategically. Use it when your opponents grow complacent or too comfortable, you sense a stalemate or deadlock, you want to mask your true intentions. You need to break a pattern of control that limits you like fire. Chaos can both destroy and create. And the difference lies in how you manage it, how to harness chaos without being consumed one. Maintain a clear core amidst chaos. Your identity, values, and objectives must remain fixed. Chaos is your weapon, not your master. 2. Control your emotions. Chaos stirs fear, anxiety, and impulsiveness in others. You must cultivate emotional equilibrium to navigate the storm calmly. 3. Be unpredictable, but calculated randomness is weakness. Deliberate unpredictability is strength. Your moves should confuse others, but always serve a hidden logic only you understand. Examples of directed chaos in history and leadership: generals who change battle plans unexpectedly, forcing enemy disarray. CEOs who disrupt markets with sudden innovations, blindsiding competitors. Negotiators who shift topics abruptly, breaking rigid expectations. In every case, chaos is wielded with precision, not recklessness. In personal life and influence, directed chaos can also apply to relationships and social dynamics. Changing how you engage with people to prevent predictability, introducing unexpected rewards or challenges to deepen intrigue, breaking habitual patterns to keep others off guard, and invested. Such moves create magnetic tension, drawing people closer while keeping them alert. Final word: become the storm, not the leaf. Chaos doesn't have to be destructive. When you direct it with mastery, it becomes your most potent ally. You don't need to control everything, only the energy flowing around you. Move with purpose in the unpredictable. Shape the swirling currents rather than resist them. And in that dance, you become invisible power itself, a force unseen, yet undeniable. Chapter 14. The Law of Silent Influence. Speak without saying a word. The loudest voice in the room often holds the least power. True influence whispers in the silence. Introduction. The hidden strength of quiet command power does not always announce itself with noise and spectacle. In fact, those who rely on volume, exaggeration, or constant assertion often reveal their insecurity. True influence is subtle. It moves beneath the surface, shaping thoughts, feelings, and decisions without direct confrontation. This is the law of silent influence, the ability to shape outcomes through presence, aura, and unspoken cues. Why silence speaks louder than words. People are always listening, not just to what you say, but to how you say. The pauses you take, the eye contact you hold, the calm in your posture, the confidence in your stillness, these communicate volumes. Silence creates space for others to fill, often revealing their own intentions and vulnerabilities. When you master silence, you master the room. The mechanics of silent influence operates on nonverbal communication, body language, facial expressions, tone, and gestures. Presence, how you carry yourself, how comfortable you are in your own skin. Subtlety, the ability to hint, suggest, or imply without explicit statements. Listening, the deeper power lies in listening more than speak. This silent dance shapes perception and controls the energy of interactions. How to develop silent influence. 1. Master your body. Language. Your body is a constant speaker. Stand tall but relaxed. Maintain steady eye contact without staring. Use controlled gestures to emphasize points. Avoid fidgeting or nervous habits. Your physical presence sets the tone before you even speak. 2. Learn the power of pauses. Pause before responding. Pause after making a point. This creates anticipation and emphasizes your words. Silence isn't emptiness, it's a tool. 3. Practice active listening. People are drawn to those who truly listen. Make others feel heard without interrupting or rushing. Your attention itself becomes influence. 4. Use suggestion over assertion. Instead of commanding, suggest. Instead of telling, imply. This invites cooperation rather than resistance. Silent influence in leadership and negotiation. The most effective leaders don't always speak first or loudest. They let others reveal their positions, then respond with measured calm. In negotiations, silence can be a weapon. Pausing after an offer, allowing the other side to fill the void, often results in concessions. In relationships and social dynamics, silent influence builds intrigue and respect. People notice those who don't overshare or oversell themselves. By controlling what you reveal and what you withhold, you create magnetic mystery. Final word. Power is often quiet. The world rewards noise and speed. But power often dwells in the quiet corners. When you learn to influence without words, you gain an invisible edge. You don't need to dominate the conversation. You only need to command the space around it. And in that silence, true power speaks loudest. Chapter 15. The Law of Invisible Boundaries. Protect your energy. Command your space. Invisible lines, firmly drawn. Keep your world intact and your power unchallenged. Introduction. The power of limits. You don't have to announce. Boundaries are often misunderstood as fences to keep others out. But invisible boundaries are different. They are the silent rules that govern your interactions, shape expectations, and protect your energy. You don't need to shout them. You don't need to explain them. You simply enforce them, and others learn where they stand. This is the law of invisible boundaries. The unseen lines you draw define how much power you hold. Why boundaries are essential for power. Without boundaries, you become overextended, taken for granted, emotionally drained, vulnerable to manipulation. Boundaries are not barriers. They are structures that create clarity and respect. When others know your limits, even if they can't see them, they adjust their behavior accordingly. The nature of invisible boundaries. Invisible boundaries are communicated through consistent actions, tone of voice, timing, and availability. The way you respond to demands or requests. They exist not in words but in patterns. How to establish and maintain invisible boundaries. 1. Be consistent. Your boundaries only work if you never break them. If you say you won't respond to certain behaviors, don't. If you limit your availability, stick to it. Consistency builds trust and enforces limits. 2. Use your energy wisely. Protect your time, attention, and emotions. Say no without apology. Withdraw when necessary. Avoid engagements that drain you. Your energy is your currency. Spend it intentionally. 3. Communicate through actions. Not just words. People respect what you enforce, not what you say. Show respect by respecting yourself first. The effects of invisible boundaries on others when you maintain clear limits. People respect you more. Manipulators lose their grip. Your influence deepens. You gain freedom to operate on your terms. Invisible boundaries in leadership. Great leaders set limits, not just on others but on themselves. They avoid overreach and burnout by knowing when to step back. This self-control inspires loyalty and models strength. Final word. Boundaries are your power lines. Your invisible boundaries are the frame around your power. Draw them clearly, hold them firmly, and let them shape the world around you. Silently, but unmistakably. End of the book. The 21 Laws of Invisible Power. You have now discovered the core principles that govern unseen influence, control, and mastery. Use these laws wisely, with integrity and intention. Power, after all, is not about domination, but about presence, precision, and invisible strength. Chapter 16. The Law of Strategic Silence. Speak less. Command more. The wise speak less. Listen more, and let silence do the heavy lifting. Introduction. The art of saying nothing to say everything in a world that rewards noise and instant reactions. Silence is a rare and undervalued asset. Most people feel compelled to fill every gap with words. They fear the pause, confusing it with weakness or confusion. But power often lives in what you don't say. Silence carries weight. It signals confidence. It forces others to project their own thoughts, fears, and desires onto you. This is the law of strategic silence, knowing when to speak, when to stay quiet, and how silence can amplify your influence. Why silence is a weapon when you don't respond immediately. You create anticipation. You let others reveal more than they intended. You control the flow of information. Words can dilute power. Too many words reveal uncertainty. Silence, when wielded strategically, magnifies your presence. The power dynamics of silence. Silence can shift the psychological balance in conversations. Build suspense before revealing your position. Disarm opponents who expect immediate rebuttal. People often fill silence with their own anxiety, giving away information or concessions. How to practice strategic silence. 1. Pause before you speak. Take a breath. Consider your words. Respond with purpose, not haste. 2. Use silence to de-escalate in conflict. Silence can calm heated emotions and prevent escalation. Let others speak themselves into your frame. Ask questions, and then listen quietly. Let others talk themselves into your position. When silence backfires, silence is not avoidance or neglect. It should be intentional. If used as evasion or weakness, it invites disrespect. Balance silence with occasional clarity to maintain authority. Final word. The power in the pause. Mastering silence is mastering influence. Speak less, listen more, and let your quiet command the room. Chapter 17. The Law of Unseen Leverage. Control what others can't see. The greatest power is held not in what is visible, but in what remains hidden. Introduction. The hidden hand that moves the world. Power isn't always about what you show. It's often about what you don't show. The strongest influence is exercised behind the scenes, in the shadows, where few dare to look. This is where true leverage lies. Invisible, silent, yet devastatingly effective. In a society obsessed with transparency and openness, the unseen becomes the greatest advantage. This is the law of unseen leverage. To command power, master the forces others overlook, and move pieces on the board without ever revealing your hand. Why unseen leverage is more potent than overt control. Anyone can seize the spotlight. Anyone can make loud demands. Anyone can show their strength openly. But those who expose all their power risk vulnerability. They invite challenges, envy, and sabotage. Unseen leverage, by contrast, operates quietly, avoiding direct confrontation. remains concealed, preventing opponents from counteracting. Influences outcomes indirectly, making resistance futile. This invisible power allows you to pull strings without being noticed, shaping reality in ways others cannot perceive until it's too late. The mechanics of unseen leverage. Unseen leverage comes from information asymmetry, knowing what others don't, resource control, access to assets or connections hidden from view, emotional influence, shaping feelings and beliefs subtly, timing mastery, acting when others least expect it. It's the difference between playing checkers in the open and playing chess in the shadows. Examples of unseen leverage in action: information asymmetry. Imagine a negotiator who holds critical knowledge the other party doesn't have, perhaps about market shifts or internal conflicts. They use this knowledge to guide discussions, push terms, or extract concessions without revealing their full hand. Their leverage is invisible but decisive. Resource control and organizations, those who quietly control budgets, key relationships, or access to influential figures, wield power far beyond their official titles. Their influence is a hidden current shaping decisions behind closed doors. Emotional influence: subtle cues, a well-timed compliment, a knowing silence, a suggestive glance, can sway moods and decisions far more than overt commands. The person who masters emotional leverage moves others like chess pieces. Timing mastery: the power to act only when conditions favor you, to wait until your move carries maximum impact, is a form of unseen leverage that can make all the difference. How to develop your own unseen leverage. 1. Gather quiet knowledge. Information is power, but only if it remains yours. Be a careful listener, observer, and collector of details others overlook. Avoid bragging or broadcasting your insights. 2. Build relationships discreetly. Influence often flows through connections unseen by outsiders. Cultivate relationships where you operate behind the scenes. Let your network be your invisible army. 3. Control access. Who gets to see you, talk to you, or influence your decisions matters. Guard your time and presence carefully. Let others feel the scarcity of your attention. 4. Practice patience and timing. Don't rush your moves. Wait for the moment when your unseen leverage will have the greatest effect. Act with precision, not haste. The risks of revealing your leverage: exposing your unseen power too early or too loudly invites countermeasures by rivals, undermining by opportunists, loss of strategic advantage, like a magician revealing their tricks. Once your leverage is known, it loses its magic. Unseen leverage in personal life. Invisible power also operates in daily relationships. Knowing what to say, and when not to say, and when not to say, understanding people's hidden motivations and fears, using subtle actions to influence without confrontation. This quiet mastery can shift dynamics profoundly. Final word. Power's greatest strength lies in its shadows. The visible is temporary. The loud is fleeting. But the unseen, it endures. Master the art of unseen leverage, and you become the force shaping events, even when no one is watching. Chapter 18. The Law of Energy Management. Preserve your power by managing your vital force. Master your energy, and you master your world. Waste it, and the world will master you. Introduction. Why energy is the true currency of power. Most people think of power as external. Titles, money, influence. But at its core, power is energy. Energy fuels your thoughts, decisions, emotions, and actions. Without energy, even the most powerful position is powerless. The law of energy management teaches you that how you use, conserve, and replenish your energy determines the extent of your invisible power. It is not about working harder, it's about working smarter with the limited fuel you have. The nature of energy. Physical, mental, and emotional energy flows through different channels. Physical energy, your body's vitality, stamina, and health. Mental energy, your focus, clarity, and cognitive stamina. Emotional energy, your emotional resilience and mood control. All three are interconnected. A deficit in one weakens the others. Powerful people recognize this interconnectedness and manage their total energy ecosystem carefully. Why energy management is often overlooked in a culture that glorifies hustle and constant output. Energy management is frequently dismissed as laziness or weakness. People brag about long hours, non-stop work, and burning the midnight oil. But this is a slow surrender of invisible power. You cannot maintain power if you deplete yourself. Energy is a renewable resource, but only with deliberate care. How poor energy management erodes power. Chronic fatigue dulls judgment and creativity. Emotional exhaustion fuels impulsive reactions and weak decisions. Physical depletion reduces presence and stamina. Mental overwhelm leads to distraction and loss of control. This slow erosion is often invisible until it's too late. Principles of effective energy management. 1. Prioritize rest and recovery. Rest is not laziness. It is strategic renewal. The most powerful people schedule downtime and protect it fiercely. Sleep, breaks, meditation. These are investments in your longevity and clarity. 2. Focus on high-value activities. Energy is limited. Spend it on what moves the needle. Learn to say no to distractions, unnecessary tasks, and toxic engagements. Be ruthless with your priorities. 3. Cultivate emotional discipline. Manage your emotional reactions. Avoid draining conflicts and energy-sapping drama. Use techniques like mindfulness, reframing, and detachment to maintain emotional balance. 4. Maintain physical vitality. Exercise, nutrition, and movement keep your body and brain energized. Physical health directly supports mental clarity and emotional resilience. The power of energy boundaries. Protect your energy like a fortress. Set invisible boundaries to guard against energy vampires. People who drain without giving back. Overcommitment, saying yes when you should say no. Mental clutter, information overload, and multitasking. Boundaries conserve your vital force for what truly matters. Energy management in leadership and influence. Leaders who manage their energy well maintain calm presence under pressure. Inspire confidence through stamina and focus. Make better decisions by avoiding burnout. Your energy level communicates more than your words ever will. Final word? Your energy is your invisible power. Power isn't just what you do. It's how you sustain doing it. Master your energy and you become unstoppable. Ignore it, and you become a shadow of your potential. Chapter 19. The Law of Invisible Influence Networks. Power lies in who you know and who knows you. True power flows through the unseen connections that bind people together. Introduction. The web of hidden influence in the quest for power. People often focus on their individual skills, titles, or wealth. But invisible power is rarely a solo act. It's woven through networks, webs of relationships, alliances, and subtle influence channels. These networks operate beneath the surface, unseen by the casual observer, yet shaping decisions, opportunities, and outcomes at every level. This is the law of invisible influence networks. Your true strength lies in the connections you nurture and the influence you wield through others. Why networks are invisible power? A single person can only do so much, but a well-connected individual becomes a node of influence, able to move ideas, people, and resources without direct effort. These networks multiply your reach and impact, provide access to information unavailable elsewhere, create social proof that amplifies your authority, serve as support systems in crises and opportunities. Invisible power grows exponentially as your network strengthens. The anatomy of influence networks. Influence networks aren't just about knowing people. They consist of strong ties, close, trusted relationships where loyalty and support are deep. Weak ties. Casual acquaintances or contacts who provide new information, bridges to other networks. Bridging connections. Individuals who connect different groups or communities, expanding your influence beyond immediate circles. Understanding and nurturing these layers is key to invisible power. How to build and maintain influence networks. 1. Cultivate genuine relationships. Influence networks thrive on authenticity. Invest time and energy in relationships that matter. Offer value without immediate expectation. Genuine connections build trust, the currency of invisible power. 2. Diversify your connections. Don't limit yourself to one circle. Seek relationships across industries, cultures, and perspectives. Diverse networks increase your adaptability and open unexpected doors. 3. Be a connector. Become the person who links others together. Facilitating connections enhances your reputation and positions you as indispensable. 4. Maintain presence without overexposure. Stay visible enough to be remembered, but avoid saturating your network with noise. Strategic engagement creates respect rather than fatigue. The hidden power of reputation and social proof. Your network doesn't just amplify your reach, it also broadcasts your value. Social proof, such as endorsements, shared successes, and public recognition within your network, builds credibility that others cannot easily dispute. This invisible reputation opens doors and disarms skepticism. Managing risks in influence networks. Networks can be fragile. Beware of burnout from overcommitting, toxic relationships draining your energy, gossip, and misunderstandings damaging your reputation. Protect your network by setting clear boundaries and nurturing positive dynamic. Invisible influence networks in action. Consider how political campaigns, business empires, and social movements rely on unseen alliances and strategic relationships, far more than visible showmanship. Behind every visible leader is a network quietly shaping the narrative and multiplying their power. Final word: your network is your net worth. Power is not just about what you know, it's about who knows you, trusts you, and moves with you. Invest in invisible influence networks thoughtfully. They are the threads that hold your power fabric together. Chapter 20. The Law of Perception. Control. Master reality by shaping how others see it. Reality is what others perceive it to be. Control their perception, and you control their reality. Introduction. The battlefield of the mind. Power is not only about what is true, it's about what is believed. In every interaction, every relationship, every decision, perception is the invisible battlefield where power is won or lost. Your ability to shape and manage how others perceive you, your actions, and your intentions determines your influence far more than the objective facts ever could. This is the law of perception. Control. To wield invisible power, you must become a master of the narratives others accept. Why perception is more important than reality. Humans are not objective beings. We filter reality through emotions, biases, past experiences, and social conditioning. What someone thinks about you shapes their behavior toward you. An impressive idea poorly presented is ignored. A minor success, loudly broadcast, can seem monumental. Perception is the lens through which all power is viewed. The elements of perception. Perception is constructed through appearance, how you present yourself physically and stylistically. Communication, the stories you tell, the words you choose, and the tone you use. Behavior, consistency between what you say and what you do. Symbols and signals, subtle cues like clothing, body language, environment, and association. Reputation, the collective opinion shaped by your history and others' testimonials. Controlling these elements allows you to craft a powerful, coherent image. How to control perception. Strategically. 1. Craft your personal narrative. Every person has a story, but not everyone tells it well. Decide the story you want others to believe about you. Shape your actions and words to reinforce that story consistently. Make it compelling, authentic, and memorable. 2. Use visual and environmental cues. We often judge quickly based on appearance and context. Dress intentionally. Choose your surroundings carefully. Use props or symbols that reinforce your desired image. These nonverbal cues speak volumes before you say a word. 3. Be consistent. Inconsistency breeds doubt and distrust. Align your words, actions, and image so they reinforce each other. Consistency builds credibility over time. 4. Manage your associations. The people you align with reflect on you. Choose your allies, friends, and partners with the same care you choose your words. Strong associations can boost your perceived power. Weak or toxic ones can damage it. The role of media and technology in perception control in today's world. Perception is magnified by media and technology. Your digital presence, social media profiles, photos, interactions, shapes how millions perceive you. Harness these tools thoughtfully. Control your narrative online as carefully as you do in person. Handling negative perceptions and attacks. You cannot control everything others think, but you can manage responses. Address false narratives selectively. Not every slight requires defense. Use silence strategically to avoid fueling gossip. Redirect conversations toward your strengths. Build goodwill proactively to withstand inevitable criticism. Remember, even negative attention can sometimes be turned into power if managed well. Perception in leadership and negotiation. Leaders who control perception can inspire confidence and loyalty. Influence decisions before arguments begin. Shift blame and avoid scapegoating. Create momentum that carries through resistance. Negotiators who control perception make others feel they must accept their terms, often without realizing why. The danger of losing perception control. When you lose control of perception, your influence wanes. Opponents fill the vacuum with their own narratives. Trust erodes. Power slips through your fingers, often unnoticed until it's gone. Final word. Reality is a story you tell and retell. Master the art of perception control, and you master the invisible architecture of power itself. Shape the stories. Control the symbols. Own your narrative, because in the end, power belongs not to the truth, but to those who make others believe it. Chapter 21. The Law of Timeless Patience. The greatest power lies in waiting. Patience is not passive waiting. It is a focused, strategic harnessing of time as your greatest ally. Introduction. The silent strength of patience. In a world of impatience, we live in an era obsessed with speed, instant answers, rapid results, and constant movement. Yet, true invisible power often manifests in the quiet moments between actions, in the mastery of timing, restraint, and endurance. Patience is not mere delay or complacency. It is the deliberate control of impulse, the calculated investment of time to maximize impact. This is the law of timeless patience. To wield invisible power, you must learn to wait. Not out of weakness, but with purpose and precision. Why? Patience is a rare and potent power. Few people understand patience's true nature. Many confuse it with weakness or indecision. But impatience leads to mistakes, burnout, and missed opportunities. Patience lets you see beyond immediate distractions, allow plans to mature fully, let opponents exhaust themselves prematurely, strike when conditions are most favorable. This is why the greatest leaders, strategists, and visionaries throughout history exercise profound patience. The mechanics of timeless patience. Patience involves emotional control, managing frustration, anxiety, and fear. Long-term vision, keeping focus on distant goals despite short-term setbacks. Strategic delay, knowing when to act and when to hold back. Resilience, maintaining effort and belief over extended periods. Each aspect is a skill cultivated through practice and mindset. How to cultivate timeless patience. 1. Develop awareness of impulse. Recognize the moments when haste tempts you. Pause. Reflect on consequences. Impulse is the enemy of invisible power. 2. Set clear long-term goals. When you have a compelling vision, short-term frustrations lose power. Patience becomes easier when you know what you're waiting for. 3. Practice deliberate waiting. Use waiting periods actively. Gather information, strengthen resources, and refine plans. Patience is active, not passive. 4. Build emotional resilience. Develop techniques to manage stress and maintain optimism over time. Meditation, journaling, and physical exercise support mental endurance. Patience as a strategic weapon in negotiations. A calm and patient demeanor often wins more than aggressive tactics. In leadership, steady persistence inspires loyalty and trust. In competition, waiting for rivals to overreach creates openings. Patience turns time itself into an ally, shifting the balance of power in your favor. The cost of impatience: acting prematurely can alienate allies, waste resources, expose vulnerabilities, lose credibility. Impatience is a common downfall for those who desire power without the discipline to sustain. Final word. Time is the ultimate arbiter of power, and visible power is not seized in a moment. It is cultivated through enduring patience. Learn to wait, learn to watch, learn to strike only when the moment is truly yours. Because in the end, those who master time master everything. Thank you for journeying through these laws. Use them wisely and end with integrity, and your influence will become a force both profound and enduring. Subscribe for clear, consistent guidance to help you grow with purpose.